Hey, welcome to the Explainer. Today we're tackling a question that could literally be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars to you down the road. It's a big one. Should you go with a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA for your retirement savings? Let's get into it. Really, the whole thing boils down to this one simple question. And your answer is what's going to unlock the secret to which of these accounts is right for you. It's, do you want to pay taxes now or do you want to pay them later? That's the choice. All right, let's jump in. Here's what we're going to cover. First, that whole pay now versus later thing. Then, we'll get into how contributions and withdrawals actually work. After that, the income rules and some retirement mandates you need to know. We'll help you figure out which account might be for you, and we'll finish up with a cool idea for hedging your tax future.
Okay, first up, how contributions and withdrawals work. This is really the core difference, right? We're talking about how your money goes in and how it comes out. This is where that whole pay now or pay later idea gets real. So here's the deal. With a traditional IRA, you're using pre-tax money. What does that mean? Well, it can actually lower your taxable income for the year, which is a nice little tax break right now. But a Roth IRA, totally the opposite. You're putting in after-tax dollars, so, no tax break today.
And this is the big trade-off. For the traditional IRA, since you got that sweet tax break up front, guess what? You've got to pay taxes on your withdrawals when you retire. But with the Roth, well, because you already paid your taxes, every single qualified withdrawal, that's your original money and all the growth, it's 100% tax-free. Pretty cool, right?
All right, let's move on to the next piece of the puzzle, income rules and retirement mandates. The rules for these two accounts are definitely not the same, so let's see who can play and how.
First things first, how much can you even put in? Well, for 2025, the limit is $7,000 across all your IRAs. And hey, if you're 50 or older, you get to do what's called a catch-up contribution, an extra $1,000. So you can put in a total of $8,000.
Okay, now this is where things get really interesting. There's a huge difference between the two here. Pretty much anyone with earned income can contribute to a traditional IRA. Easy enough. But a Roth IRA? The IRS has income limits, and those limits decide if you can even put money in. So take a look at these 2025 numbers. It's all based on something called your Modified Adjusted Gross Income, or MAGI. If you're a single filer, you can see that once you start making over $150,000, your ability to contribute gets smaller and then goes away. For married folks filing together, that phase-out starts at $236,000. Here's another massive difference that doesn't really kick in until you're older. It's called a Required Minimum Distribution, or RMD. What is that? Well, basically, the IRS eventually wants its cut. So for most retirement accounts, they make you start taking money out at age 73. And this right here is a huge win for the Roth IRA. As the original owner, you are never forced to take withdrawals. You can literally let that money keep growing tax-free for your entire life if you want. With a traditional IRA, though, that RMD clock starts ticking at age 73, no exceptions.
So with all that in mind, let's get to the big question. Which account is actually for you? We've talked about the mechanics, but now let's figure out how to make that strategic choice for your own situation.
A lot of the time, this decision really just boils down to making a prediction. It's kind of like placing a bet on your future self. And the question you're betting on is this: will your income and your tax rate be higher or lower in retirement than it is today? Okay, so let's say you think your income will be higher later. This is super common if you're early in your career, right? If that's you, then a Roth IRA is probably a fantastic fit. The logic is simple. Pay the taxes now while you're in a lower tax bracket. Then, when you're retired and in a higher bracket, you get to pull all that money out completely tax-free. But what about the flip side? What if you're at the peak of your career right now? You're making more money than you probably will in retirement. Well, in that case, the traditional IRA is the star of the show. It makes so much sense to get that tax deduction now while you're in a high tax bracket, and it saves you the most money. Then, later on in retirement, when your income drops, you'll pay taxes on what you take out, but it'll probably be at a much lower rate. So you might be thinking, what if I make too much money for a Roth? Remember those income limits we talked about? Well, there's actually a workaround. It's a pretty well-known strategy, and it's totally legal. It's called the backdoor Roth IRA. And it's not as complicated as it sounds, I promise. Here's how it works. Step 1, you contribute money, after-tax money, to a traditional IRA. Anyone can do that. Step 2, you just
convert those funds right over into your Roth IRA. You file a little paperwork and boom. It's basically a way for high earners to get around those income rules and get money into a Roth. Okay, last section. And this one is all about hedging your tax future. Because here's the thing, this doesn't have to be an all or nothing choice. In fact, a lot of people would say the smartest move is to not choose just one. The whole idea here is giving yourself flexibility. If you have both a traditional and a Roth IRA, you have options in retirement. Think about it. You can pull just enough from your traditional account to stay in a low tax bracket, and then if you need more cash, you just take it from your Roth account, completely tax-free. It's all about giving yourself control over your tax bill when you're not working anymore. And really, this all leads to the biggest unknown, doesn't it? I mean, you can take a decent guess at your career path, sure, but can any of us honestly predict what the U.S. tax code is going to look like 30 years from now? Yeah, probably not. So having both kinds of accounts is just a smart hedge. It's admitting that we don't know the future, and the best thing you can do is prepare for it. So the real question isn't which one is better, it's what's the right mix for you.